Hello. It's
We're
me.
back. Libby's back. It's a new year. It's 2025.
Yeah,
We have our warm drinks because it is very cold outside
it is
today.
cold. I'm not a cold person. I'm
It
sick of the
is
cold.
way too cold
Yeah.
for here.
50s, 40s, 50s, I'm good with. But like
Fine. A
every
jacket.
night, Joseph's like, it's going to be 35 when you wake up. I'm like, cool.
Love that.
Excited about that.
Don't love it. Well, soon enough it'll
Yeah.
be warm, but it is a new year and we're back and we're going to try to be more organized this year.
We are working on it. I'm excited.
It is possible that it will occur.
Yeah.
We're working on it. So I had a thought about, I don't love New Year's resolutions. I don't really set them.
Same.
But, you know, a new year usually brings some thoughts about what has happened in the last year, maybe, whether it's something you've accomplished or not, or just like what life has brought to you. And then thoughts about a year ahead. And so I thought we might think about, I want you to think about the concept of if, let's say, one of your goals this year was to improve a relationship that you have, your marriage or a friendship, like something that you're wanting to intentionally work to try to nurture and care for that relationship and grow it and strengthen it and make it better. And so I wanted us to think about that concept and kind of discuss that a little bit as it relates to our relationship with Jesus. I think we're pretty good at humans at going as humans at thinking, like, oh, there's something that I want to, do a little bit better. I want to be a little more organized. That's a goal of mine at home too. I'm working on that. Got my big old planner out.
Nice.
Some days it helps. Some days it doesn't.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It helps if you look at it also. That's a thing for me.
Yeah, I'm just
Like,
leaving it open all the time.
yeah,
I have
need
to actually
look at this.
look at the pages.
Yeah.
It's true. So let's talk about the idea though. Like, let's say that, and again, if you're listening, just think of any relationship that you think this applies to. But if you were going to set a goal to be more intentional about a relationship with one of your children, a relationship with your spouse, a relationship with a friend, a coworker, what do you think are some of the types of things that you would do to foster that? So I'm really asking that question now.
So we'll start there.
Yeah, let's start there.
Well, I think it depends probably on our personalities also.
Totally.
So it's going to be different answers.
Depends on the relationship.
For everyone.
Yes. A lot of this is very dependent, but we're talking in big generals here.
Yeah. Well, for instance, my husband, like, I think number one, for a relationship to thrive, there has to be intentionality behind it. So that would be probably something I would think about as far as if we're talking my marriage. I'll use that relationship.
Yeah.
My marriage relationship, if I'm setting a goal for the next year, I would want to increase my intentionality. And as far as loving him, I just thought that's a kind of a big idea.
It's a big one.
Like, it can be a lot of different things.
The verb loving him.
Yeah, but that would probably be, so just like yesterday, here's an example. We were getting new floors and he went home to meet the guy at 12.
Okay.
So one way that I intentionally loved him yesterday was I went home and made us lunch while he met with the guy so that he could have lunch.
So that he wouldn't have to skip lunch to meet the guy.
Right.
Or try to find lunch.
That's very small, but that's like me trying to be intentional to love him. And it was really nice because he said thank you. He noticed.
He acknowledged that.
Hey, thank you so much for doing this.
Makes a difference.
Yeah.
It didn't take much effort on your part, but it was effort and it was intentional.
Totally.
It wasn't just something you were going to be at home anyway and we'll throw something together. You went, because Jeff was saying that about today. Like, I don't know if I'll get to eat lunch today. And I thought, first of all, we don't need to be having days like that.
Yeah.
Eat
Yes.
today, people. Eat today. But I was like, I mean, if Joseph, whether he'd said that or not, in your mind you went, oh, it's possible that if he, doesn't keep, if something great doesn't happen,
Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of that happens in y'all's lives, like
Right.
woohoo, but a lot of crazy nonsense happens in our lives.
Yeah.
So,
Amen. Yes. That's how we live.
so you said, oh, and I think that's the word intentional came to mind a lot when I was thinking about this subject. If we want to grow in something, anything,
You have to be
we have to
intentional.
make an effort. And that means it needs to be something that's on our mind, on our heart, that we're thinking about, that we're praying about, that we're, and you said it doesn't have to be these huge things, but these moments, that's a moment of intimacy that, you showed him that you care for him and that you love him and that him having lunch matters to you. Like that's the kind of thing we're talking about. So it's a good example. I want us to think about this. If I'm sure you've caught on to this, but as it relates to growing our relationship with the Lord, there are going to be some of those same principles that we can apply.
Right.
So if that's an example of how we can be intentional in a human relationship, there are also going to be examples of how we can be intentional in growing our relationship with the Lord.
Right.
So for some of us that, I'm pointing at myself now.
Yeah.
For some of us that struggle with keeping it all together and doing the things, that might mean writing it in my, list for the day that I'm going to sit down and spend time with the Lord. Now, does that sound very, it's not a romantic way to look at a relationship. Like, oh, I'm going to pencil in some time with my husband, I'm going to pencil in some time with the Lord. But for some of us, it's either that or it doesn't happen. It's either that or it doesn't get done. There have been times that I lay my head down at night and I'm praying and I acknowledge that I have not spoken to the Lord, thought about him, maybe not thought about him, but like I've gone through my day as if that's just not a relationship that I have. And I think if I did that with Jeff or with a friend who was trying to reach out or that I wanted to have connection with, or like imagine doing that with your child. Oh, we're just going to spend the whole day pretend like they don't exist. And then remember that they do and they have needs from us. It's not a great system. So for some of us, now your child might be there going, if you don't feed me,
that's the benefit
no
of
one
having
will.
children is they will tell you.
Exactly.
Most adults will just let you run over them, not say anything.
Yeah.
Not most, but some.
Figure it out for themselves
Right.
or be hurt or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And God gives us a lot
three-year-old's
of...
not going to do that.
It's
She's
true.
going to be
very
like,
helpful.
Mom, I'm hungry.
In a way.
Yeah.
It's very useful.
Yeah.
Helps keep them alive and all that. I must eat. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to say that. See? Using
You're growing.
The filter, it kicks in sometimes with a little bit of caffeine. So if
we were to relate this to our walk with the Lord,
yeah,
is that what you're meaning?
Yes.
Like how would that look?
Yeah, the intentionality. I think, like I said, some of it for me is not always. It's kind of like when people say, like, "Oh, we have a date night every week." Like for some people, they're like totally jealous of that. They would love to have that. For some people, they're like, "Well, that sounds too scheduled. That's not very romantic." And I'm like, part of intentionality is recognizing that we are little baby sheep that have, the tendency to wander. The Bible calls us sheep, calls Jesus the shepherd because we're like, something over here. So for me, I think some of the intentionality is like getting on a reading plan, like one of the apps that has a reading plan that will remind me on my phone maybe, or writing it down somewhere, or spending a certain time of the day doing some of those things, whether it's reading the word or studying or speaking to the Lord. Now, my hope is that as that habit grows, that blossoms into things that are, more what's the word where you don't plan it?
Natural?
Yes, and spontaneous.
Yeah.
That is a little more spontaneous as I go. But
Mm-hmm.
if that's a struggle, and not everyone's going to have the same struggle again, but that's my example for myself is
Mm-hmm.
if I know that I need to do something, sometimes I have to
Plan it.
I have to plan it and then do it for a while.
Yeah.
And
I think every relationship is really built on spontaneity and plans. Like really, it's both.
some of both.
It's a little bit of both in every good relationship, I would think. Like if everything's planned, then it's just rigid.
I think the thing I want to avoid us thinking about is that's that's too rigid, but I also think God knows how he made me, and
Totally.
he knows that I struggle sometimes in those ways, and so he knows how my brain works. And so I think, well, I would hope that if I were in a relationship with someone that was struggling in that way and that was their set intention to spend time with me or to, talk with me, it was to set that time aside, I hope I would feel, that was a positive thing. That, if a friend said, or if Jeff said, oh, I think we should set this time aside really intentionally to be together, I think that would be something that felt loving to me and honoring. So anyway, we're talking a lot about human relationships, but we're trying to figure out, are there ways that the intentionality, some of that intimacy, the things that you would imagine would make for a better relationship with someone that you do sit across from sometimes, can you apply those to your relationship with the Lord in some ways?
Yeah, I think that when the New Year's come, people will set goals, resolutions, and I think very often it's about our own personal ambitions in life, and it's more focused on me rather than whatever God might have planned, or for
Anyone
us
else?
to decrease and him to increase in the next year. Not for everyone.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a very common thing. Like, oh, I want to eat healthier because I want to feel better. I want to look better. Like that doesn't have anything to do with the Lord. It might. You might be doing those things because of your relationship with the Lord, but 9 times out of 10, that's not
I would say higher,
intention.
but
yeah,
agreed.
So I feel like this has been something that he's been growing in me probably for the last couple years, and it has been quite the journey for me of realizing, or even just having to think about who do I want to become. I'm not so much about resolutions either, but with the new year, we think about those things. And my birthday's in January, so I think that's also a natural thing.
Sure.
Is when people become older, that birthday sometimes reminds them, like, oh, what did I do with that last year? And
or that last decade.
I am older,
Sure.
and here's another year. So January kind of always has that. But for the last couple of years, I really think that God's been trying to grow that in me. That who do I want to become? Yeah. Like, I think that's a question we all need to have in our minds when we're thinking about this is, who do we really want to be in the future? And then let that shape what we're putting in place in the now. Right. So I I also think we have to look past our shallow pursuits in life.
I agree.
Like, I'm thinking 10 years down the road, and if I'm not thinking shallow, I'm thinking like the deeper parts of me. What do I really want? Who do I really hope to become? And so in women's ministry, we've outlined these 3. It's very simple, but we start by discovering our identity in Christ, and then we learn to grow spiritually in that identity, and then we become over time deeply invested disciples of Jesus. And I think that's something that I have identified. I want to be a deeply invested disciple in his mission and his plans. But that really genuinely starts with me. Like,
it takes effort, does it not?
Yes, it takes so much effort for me to deeply invest in his mission in my life and in the world around me. And it genuinely, like, what I've come to realize is there are plenty of things that I can do to grow deeper into that and to look more like him over time. Plenty of things that I can do, and there's so much that I can't do.
Yeah.
So the things that I can do, I need to make sure that they're putting me in direct proximity to him, genuinely.
Yeah.
Like, I used to always be a proponent of, you don't have to get up early and to do your quiet time. You can do it at any time of the day, which I still believe is true. But for me personally, I've realized, like, no, you need to get up and devote this time to him.
You have to.
Because otherwise I can go through my whole day not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Especially, like, I have the benefit of working at a church, so much of what I do, like, I have to think about him.
Right.
But, like, on the holiday break, if I wasn't doing that, I would go through my whole day just doing everything else.
Right.
So those are, like, practices that I've put in place to help put me in direct proximity to him, the one who actually has the power to change me in the deeper places of me. Because I can't just flip a switch and become a deeply invested disciple. It takes his transformation.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole bit, isn't it?
Yeah. It's hard, though, because it's like,
yes.
the whole point is me increasingly growing in not caring about my own desires or my own ambitions. And
caring less about those things. Yeah.
Over time.
Yeah. And to be clear, as we're having this conversation, it can sound very rigid. It can sound very like you have to do things a certain way. That we're not talking about salvation.
No.
We're not talking about it.
No, this is like growth.
Like people that have had experiences with really rigid religion hear that this is about the growth of a relationship. This is not about you have to do things the way that Libby does them or the way that I do them because your brain might be normal, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And so that's not what we're saying at either. Maybe we're the normal ones.
Yeah, maybe we are, Amy. Maybe we are.
You never know. What will the research tell us in coming years?
Yeah.
Who's to say?
Yeah.
But all of that to say, what we're talking about is growth in an already established relationship with the Lord. So,
yes.
And what being a disciple means is truly being someone who follows his ways. And that means letting go of some of our own stuff. And that happens over time, right? Mm-hmm. You're saying that so that's one example is for you getting up early in the morning or getting up in the morning for some of us.
Sure.
Maybe it's not early, but making that one of the things that you do in the morning rather than hoping that you'll get around to it eventually, essentially.
Right.
Give us some other examples because you said there's lots of things that you don't have control over.
Right.
And like many things, we set our intention, we do the things, and we don't have a lot of times control over the outcome.
Right.
People died at the beginning of the year and they step on the scale and nothing has happened or a lot has happened and we don't have control over the outcome, but we have control over what we put in. So what are some other inputs that ideas that we can think about that would help us grow in that way?
I mean, there's lots of things out there. I think spiritual practices come to mind, which also the older I get, the more I realize, like, I think... Yeah, this is totally not about religion for me. This is about the relationship. But what I have learned, I think I really went so far against the idea of religion that I missed out on, like what the book of James said, like pure.
Some of the beauty of that.
Yeah, pure religion. Like undefiled religion is perfect. It's good. Like it's not something we should turn against.
Absolutely.
So I'm learning that these practices actually are super beneficial in my growth and what I want deeply. Like what I want in the deepest parts of me are to grow closer to him and looking more like him. So like some examples, getting up early to do quiet time is one, which, I'll talk about that in a minute. But another one, I mean, so many things. It genuinely depends on the person.
Yeah.
I think that's something that you should maybe start praying about if you have no practices in your life that put you in direct proximity to him. If you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, it's something to think about.
Yeah. Talk to a
Because
spiritual
otherwise,
mentor about,
yes, counseling could be something. I mean, it genuinely just depends. Like that could be a genuine, this is a time where I go and I'm working on myself, and that could be a spiritual practice if it's benefiting your spiritual life.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I don't know, like so many things. Like after I drop off Harlow, I'll pray for her. Like me and Joseph for the past 2 years have been really working to try and practice Sabbath once a week, which is where you stop and you rest, which is very difficult in the world that we live in. But that's something that we're trying to grow in, is practicing Sabbath. I mean, there's so many things. When I say spiritual practices, it's basically just looking at the life of Jesus and what are things that he practiced and how can I implement
that
those
have
in
value.
my life.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they all have value, but how can there's a reason that we look at his life as the ultimate, like, doesn't the word Christian mean little Jesus? We're trying to emulate not only who he was, but some of the things that he did because they're good for us.
Right. Yeah, and he was teaching us, like, here's what
How
it looks
to
like.
live.
Yeah, here's what it looks like to walk with the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like an example, Scripture teaches us, do not worry. Well, I can't do that. Like, I can't just not worry.
Right.
But I can practice a Sabbath every week. And that slows me down, makes my heart rate normal, like, which is very difficult, actually. When you actually stop and your body starts to slow down, it's like,
what are we doing?
Yeah, it's scary a little bit.
Totally. Your body's like, no.
Yeah, and even just practice, like my morning quiet time, sometimes that's difficult for me because the rest of my day is very fast-paced.
Yeah.
So spending that time is like, oh, okay, breathe. It's okay. Like, I let the thoughts come, and then I let my mind go to rest. Like, that is all.
Yeah.
That is intentional work for me.
Absolutely.
Because that's not who I naturally am.
Well, and it is not what our culture intends for us to be either. It's very countercultural to sit, pray, meditate, read.
Yes,
those especially are all as a mom, a working mom, a wife. I mean, we're women. We're supposed to be able to do it all, and not just do it all, but do it all the time.
Right. Yeah, so that just like in those moments, spending time with him in that way increasingly grows my ability to not worry. I can't just not worry.
No, but you can take every thought captive, and that takes practice.
I can intentionally spend time with him. I can slow down when I feel worry coming, but this is all like, I mean, it takes time to grow in those ways, I think.
I mean, a first step is acknowledging somewhere that some growth could be useful. Like, this isn't about, we just want you to take stock
whatever
of
step is in front of you.
Yeah. And sometimes we have to look at, we're not asking you to create a problem where there is none. If things are already going in that direction and you're experiencing that growth with the Lord, then keep doing some of what you're doing. But it's a good idea periodically. And like you said, it may be different times of the year. I think there's a natural tendency to be a little more insightful about what's going on in our inner life during the winter. I don't know why.
With people.
Yeah. I don't know why.
I agree with that.
Well, I have a theory, but it's a little convoluted. But essentially, I think winter is a good representation of like inner work. During the summer when it's, I mean, my goodness, there are times that it doesn't get dark till 9:00 at night.
I know.
There's time to be going and doing and playing outside and all the things, and
vitamin D.
Yeah. And in winter, we're like, I'm
trapped.
in a little hole.
I have is me and thoughts right now.
Yeah. I think, we think about like seasonal depression and things like that. And I think there's a reason for that. And, but I think it's also a good time to just sort of take stock of what's going on and places where we think some growth could occur. And it takes us being kind of realistic and looking at, like you said, where are some places where I would like to grow with the Lord, talking to him about it, praying about it, talking to a spiritual mentor about it, whatever you need to do to make some of that into a reality, and trusting that your little part of that intentionality, that God will honor that. And he has, if we're thinking we're a drop in the bucket here, right? Based on as far as like what we can control and the outcome that we can produce, so to speak. But I think there's something different about investing spiritually. If I invest my little drop in the bucket, then I can trust that God will grow that and will honor that in a way that I can't really imagine is so good. And another,
and that's like what he does. That's like the whole point, I think, is for us to invest what we can.
Yeah.
And then he does all the rest of
the dividends
work.
are really his, right?
Yeah.
Which is really unlike like just human goals and ambitions, right? What we invest is what's invested, and we hope that something good happens, or we hope that it pays a dividend. And with God, we can always trust that that will be more than we hope or imagine.
Yeah.
Like that's a very good.
Yeah. I think so often, though, we do focus so much on what we can do.
Yes.
And I think maybe that's an American thing.
Yeah, it's how we're raised, it's how we're taught.
And so it's like, but something I'm growing in is just like realizing how fragile my willpower is. Like, it literally only gets me so far, and that's
so true.
Daily. Like, there's a reason I can't anymore at 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, my willpower is shot for the day.
Over.
Yeah, so if I don't have practices in place, some type of, I like to call them boundaries. Like, if I don't have these boundaries in my life that are going to make sure I'm not going to the fridge to get ice cream, like, I'm going to go eat the ice cream. Do you know what I mean? Like, because my willpower is gone. It can only take me so far. But the Spirit is much stronger, and he has given us these, like, just what a beautiful picture that God gave us, and even giving us a human to look at, to go, okay, well, Jesus did that, so this is something I can do that's going to help me grow spiritually. Okay, so I'm curious, we're talking about goals, and now we can maybe even get specific. I'm curious, your goal for this year. We're talking about growing with the Lord.
Yeah.
Have you thought about, do you have any goals this year for nothing else but just your spiritual
I have some ideas.
Walk.
I'm kicking around.
Same. I don't have anything. I've not written anything down. I've been thinking about it.
Well, when I write something, this is like, I didn't want to write in the new planner because I was like, once I do, it is a thing and I might ruin it. So I don't tend to write that kind of stuff down anyway. And I honestly, with some health struggles I've been having the last 6 months, mainly my goal this year is to like survive. And, sometimes things just sort of like, life has happened a lot in the last year. And so I think for me, and I think this will be relatable to you, take it for what it's worth, people, but people who listen might find themselves in this situation from time to time. But for me, it is easy for me to spend my time studying the Word based on what thing I have to present to someone next. Is it the podcast? Is it teaching in our Bible study group? Is it, whatever, is leading a Bible study of some kind? And so I think for me, and Jeff has said that to me before, that, working at the church, and we're reading books that we have to be prepared to address in staff meeting or whatever it is. And it's easy to let that be to let that be the whole thing. And I think there's a big piece of growth that's easy to miss there. when I'm only studying whatever's coming next instead of having something that I'm just passionate about studying. And so I had started maybe like in December. We bought it's a whole thing, but we bought a recumbent bike off of Facebook Marketplace because I have some health issues that I really need to be not doing like up exercising, but like sitting exercising. And so we've both been taking turns riding the bike and stuff like that when we're at home. And so I had started like on the Bible app, just the generic brown Bible app.
That's the one I use.
The like read through the Bible in a year. And for me, having it read out loud to me sometimes is more possible than sitting down and reading it with my eyeballs. My eyes get tired so fast. I'm not saying I don't read the Bible. I do read the Bible, but some things I'm just sort of playing around with some new ideas of like, what's the harm? Let's say that I am, reading and studying still, but I also want to read the Bible through in a year. And the only way that I think I'm going to be able to really accomplish that is by having it read to me by my phone. I thank God for the technology, truly. Great. And I guess if I don't get it done, then I don't get it done. But I mean,
you're going to consume something in that time.
Exactly.
Might as well be scripture.
There's something, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's I think that's a great practice.
Listening
honestly.
to Job, the whole, and I'm doing it with like the, where it's in order by the chronological. Thank you. It was never going to come to me. But listening to Job while you're, sweating your cycle out, very, very cathartic. I was like, Job, I'm so sorry, Job. And Winston's like, my dog is like, what's happening? Sorry,
so
buddy.
funny.
It's wild. So, just, I'm always one of those people that has an idea in the works, and it's usually about something that doesn't matter. So I'm kind of letting that, God has given you, listener, a brain and ideas and thoughts and people that you can rely on. And, some of that creativity, like if I were feeling really disconnected, there are seasons where I feel really disconnected from Jeff. He's here a lot. I'm home a lot. A lot of stuff is happening. There are times that I think it's there's research about like, if you're going to kiss your spouse, make it like 6 seconds at least. There's something about look
I've
it up.
I've never heard that research.
I get it all wrong.
Okay.
So Jeff came home and kissed me the other day, and I was like, it wasn't 6 seconds. He didn't even know it was a thing. And so that's how he learned it was a thing. And I was like, so we
he
kissed
was
for
probably
6
like,
seconds. Yeah, he was like,
she's
alrighty. But I thought, well, if I can
That's
be
one thing we can
kind
do.
of yelly intentional with him, then, again, some of that, not everything is about, I don't know what I was going to say.
Okay.
I just got that part out. I need a drink of tea.
So one
It's
of your
actual tea.
goals is, you're already doing it, I guess. Focusing
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, my phone has been reminding me that I'm like way behind. So
That's okay.
Actually doing it and catching up would be good.
Yeah.
That's something I could do while I'm doing the dishes or whatever the other stuff of life that needs to be done. I'm not always, well, it's going to sound a little ironic, but I'm not always great at listening to that. Like, I'm not much of a podcast listener. But I've been getting better about that when I know I'm like, if I'm on the bike and I'm trying to read, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get sick. So, it's been easier to listen to something. And like you said, if I'm going to be consuming something, if it's going to be a podcast or if it's going to be, something, then why not the Bible?
Yeah.
Unedited, just putting a little bit more of that into my life can't be a bad thing.
Right.
Is it transformational so far? I don't know. Maybe. Probably not yet.
I think so.
I
I think it has to
The
be.
effort
We just
matters.
don't always see it.
Yeah.
Like it's doing something.
Yeah.
Whether
I just
you see
mean
it right away or
like I don't
or
know.
some major
I don't know if that's
transformation.
going to be something that I see down the line, or if it's going to be, that small thing that you can't really see because you see yourself in the mirror every day kind of thing. But I figured, again, we don't have a lot of control over outcome, but we
Yeah.
do have control over what we input.
That's
And
right.
again, this is not about being like rigid and like, if you want to listen to something else or watch your show while you ride your bike, do that. I'm just saying, is there a place in your life where you can plug in something that will be beneficial for you spiritually and that will grow your relationship with the Lord? And again, ask Him to show you that. I'm not asking you to change everything in your life. Pick one little area and
Focus there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it becomes sort of habitual, and that's not a bad thing. A lot
a
of
good thing.
things, yeah, there's a reason that we don't always have to think about every single step when we're backing out of the
Driveway.
garage in the driveway, and it's because our those pathways in our brain get set, and habit isn't a bad word and it's not a good word. It just is. It's a human thing.
And we're habitual people.
Yeah. So
whether we're like the ones that are like, no, I'm spontaneous. Like you have some sort of habits in your life.
100, many,
all of us do. Yeah.
Many. So this may be one of those areas where you can just pay attention to that and think and pray about a little place where, or maybe it's a big place, but a little place where God has some potential growth for you. And since we're at that time of year where people are thinking about, like, again, just sort of taking account of what's happening in your life tends to happen around this time of year. And if you haven't done any of that and you're seeing this at the end of January, then this is a great time to do that, because literally any day of the year is a great time to,
Yeah, I agree.
like, the spiritual diet doesn't have to start on Monday or January 1st, and it doesn't have to be perfect every single day the whole year. In fact, I'd prefer it not be because, stumbling and failing a little bit is a good thing. That's reality. We're not ever going to be perfect at anything. And so just doing a little bit along the way and focusing some of that energy that you may or may not have. You do. You have some on spiritual things, spiritual growth.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about today. And then,
Yeah.
do you have more to say about that, or do you want to talk about event?
I think we maybe should go into together. So that's an event we're doing.
Thank you. I
for
didn't
women's
know that it was
ministry.
called. I probably did know that, but
Well, I think whenever I pitched it to our team, I called it a vision night.
okay.
But then
maybe
I picked a title.
But the event is called Together.
Together. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
And we're just calling it that because we want to be unified moving forward.
it.
And we are hoping that this could become an annual thing. It depends on if people show up or not.
Yeah.
So please show up, because we'd like to
Yeah,
make it an
we'll be
annual thing.
there.
Yeah, we'll be there. Well, one, I think it's going to be super beneficial for any woman who's new to our church, because my hope is to kind of go through the different facets of women's ministry, what we offer,
What? Yes.
how they can be involved in it.
Yeah. If they need to plug in somewhere, they'll be
sign-ups.
able to.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the hope there. But I also think it's going to be really beneficial for the rest of the women that go to Northside, because I get questions about women's ministry all the time.
Everything.
Yeah, and it's hard to effectively communicate sometimes. Like, everyone has questions about this event, and I can't communicate all the details about it effectively. Like
To everyone
right?
At the same time.
Yes.
Someone's
So,
not going to get the email. Someone's not going to be at the event.
or even, you said this, but I wasn't listening. like totally possible. Yeah, me. That's who I am.
100%.
Like, you definitely said that from the stage, but I missed it completely.
Okay.
So this is an event that we're hoping could be a starting point for women every year, to just be reminded, here's what we have planned. Here's how you can be involved. Here's the purpose behind it. Like,
Yeah.
that's really important to me. We don't just do things to do things. There is a purpose behind everything that we do. So I want to explain the heart behind all of those things. So if you're curious about the event, because I'm sure plenty of women are curious about the event, and I can't explain it perfectly,
Okay.
but I can say, just come.
Yeah.
And
So tell us,
let's do this.
this would be the time that you take a moment to get your phone out or get a piece of paper and write whatever details you're about to say about the day and time and where on campus it is.
Right. One more thing.
Okay.
So we're talking about taking an intentional account of our life. And another piece that we will cover at the event is not just what women's ministry does, like our vision for the year ahead. I wanted to also like give the women that do come, time to think about their own lives. And so what we've talked about today, we're working on a workbook that they can go through that helps them maybe like work through what pieces do I maybe need to think about more. Start praying about what rhythms maybe should I put in place. Maybe it's just one rhythm. One rhythm I want to put in place that helps me grow this next year closer to Jesus.
Love it.
There's going to be that piece also.
Good timing. Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, here's us as a whole, and then let's look at you as an individual.
Yeah, you look at you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, not everyone.
Yeah.
No, you personally look at you as an individual. So we'll do this, let me think, January 26th in the high school room from 6:30 to 8.
Is that a Sunday?
It's a Sunday night.
Okay.
And we're going to do, there's not like a meal, but for lots of women, what we're providing is a meal. Because we're going to do like a big charcuterie table.
Oh, fun. Okay.
So, and Karen's making her chicken salad and her pimento cheese, which I know so many people love.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and
Plenty.
then there will be fruit and all
Okay.
kinds of crackers, all the fixings for a charcuterie. And coffee and water and all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the high school room where all the youthy
And
meet.
I know I'd gotten an email about like there will be like we'll all be there as part of your team if someone has a question about the podcast, if someone has a question about
Rooted.
thank you.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to remember other people besides me. Like our team will be there to discuss, or if you have, I had told my friend today before we recorded, I would love it if someone would come up to me and go, I would love to do some research for the podcast, or I know who you should.
I would love to help with research.
I would love to co-host sometimes, or I would love, this is a person that you should interview and let me introduce her to you or whatever it is. So, but for every part of our ministry, as much as people can be there, there will be like our team to say hi, and if
Answer
you have questions or
help you sign up
concerns,
for things. Yeah.
just kind of help point people in the right direction, receive feedback if you have it, like if you have thoughts, like come find us. That's what we'll be there for, to help guide that process. And I just love the idea that we can be there and people can come talk to us about the podcast. Come talk to me. Libby's going to be doing everything. Come talk to me about the podcast. I love it.
Come talk to Amy about the podcast. See her in person if all you ever do is hear her voice.
If you want me to sign your podcast, I don't think that's a thing. No. That was a joke.
You could sign something though, probably.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. But I would love, it's really, yeah. So
So that's what the night's going to
be.
be.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll try and we're going to just try and give everyone a crystal clear version of what we do and why we do it and how they can be involved. Because the hope for women's ministry is you guys are plugged in elsewhere in the church, like you and Jeff do One Life. Now I'm going to lose all my examples, but like all of our women are plugged in elsewhere,
in
doing
lots
the
of
things.
places. Yes.
Yeah. So women's ministry, my hope, is like an area where we can come together as the generations to grow and invest. And so the things that we have in place are meant to help us do that. So really, I would love, it's not, I think sometimes women are like, oh, women's ministry isn't for me. But I'm like, no, it's for, we need you. We
Literally,
need all of you.
that's what it is.
Because we want to do this all together.
Right.
Hence the name. Like,
what do
let's do this together.
Out of curiosity, what do you think that mindset, what do you think that springs out of? Is it just the expectation that women's ministry is a certain thing?
I think it is that, but I also think, yes, I think they maybe have an idea of what women's ministry is, and in their mind, that's not who I am, and I don't need that.
Okay.
But it also just could be, I don't need anything extra. I'm already getting
Fair
what I
enough.
need over
Okay.
here.
I have enough on my plate. I have enough going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is fine.
Sure.
But really how we've set up women's ministry is that it really does the best when we're all doing it and growing together in what we're doing.
We won't ask you to do anything extra unless you want to.
Yeah.
We won't put anything else on your plate. It really is. I think our women's ministry events are very well designed to be like a place of rest. Like when I come, I will talk about the podcast or whatever with people, but a lot of times when I attend a women's ministry event, it's just about being there. And as a woman, I don't feel like I have to always contribute necessarily. Like I feel there are times if you're out serving and doing a lot of other things and you're involved in a lot of other things, this might be a place where you can be ministered to as a woman too. So,
yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, and that's kind of the whole purpose. We want to give women opportunities to discover, grow, and invest.
Yeah.
So we're going to hit all those different places in what we're doing. And it really works the best if we all do it together. So.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah, so this is for you. Don't think that it's not
all
for
of us.
you. Yeah, when I want everyone there, just because I think it's so beautiful when we all come together. There's nothing really that brings me more joy than seeing all those different generations come together and actually interact with each other. Like the podcast y'all did with Joanne and Gracie. I just love their love.
They're precious.
Aren't they precious? Like, and they would have never experienced that had they not both been intentional to say, okay, I'm going to do this extra thing, even though I might not need it. But then look at what God did to bring their group together. And to grow, because
and you hear
you're
all
seeing
those
different
stories about
perspectives.
Rooted, don't you? I mean, I when I hear about Rooted, that's the main thing I hear is that, like, from every person's mouth, like, it's great to be in a room with younger women. It's great to be in a room with more seasoned women. You know, people that
just
are
women I wouldn't normally interact with, even.
If the natural tendency is to find, you know, your home in a Sunday morning or midweek group that is based on life stage, then it's kind of natural that tends to fall in certain age ranges and things like that. So otherwise, unless you are really, like, I had joked about learning to knit this year or like crochet, which is a huge laugh because that doesn't sound like something that's ever going to happen. But Jeff was like, you could join Prayers and Squares. I was like, I could, if this was ever going to happen. But like, you know, this creates that natural, opportunity to be with people that I wouldn't otherwise, like women that I wouldn't otherwise know, or definitely know as deeply.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. So that's what Together is. January 26th.
26th. Okay.
Sunday night, 6:30.
It's exciting.
I think so.
It is.
I'm excited. And we're only doing 2 events this year, so plan to come to them.
Yeah,
please
make those a priority if you can.
If you can, it would be wonderful. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't want to steal all your time. Just a bit. Sundays. Out of the week. That's understandable.
Yeah,
out
that's
of the
week. Just 2 Sundays a week. That's only what it feels like.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Well, anyway, we love you and we're praying for you. And if we can help you, you know, set some intention or discuss this more, come find us, email us, send a carrier pigeon, whatever. We're here. And we have another, we're trying to do, you know, releases a little more consistently this year. So we'll do our best.
We will do our best.
Life happens, but we'll do our best. And we've got Gracie now. And, you know, if this is something that you feel called to invest in, like, reach out to us.
Please.
We're just humans. And sometimes we wake up with sick kids or whatever it is. So, you know, we're trying to grow our team a little bit to make sure that we have, that we're putting out, you know, information that people want to engage with. So, yeah.
Okay.
Happy 2025.
Woo!
Before you know it, it'll be warm
did it.
again. But right now it's cold.
Yeah.
It's okay.
We'll
I told
get through
Jeff
it.
I was going to do some sweeping hand motions because he felt like the sweater was going to be a little wild on screen. It's fine.
Oh, and
We're just going for it today.
Yeah, we went
okay.
for it.
See you later.
We love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.